Hey guys, welcome back to Rossoneri TV. I'm Gio and I'm here for the match review of AC Milan against Genoa. Match that finished moments ago at the San Siro. Another 0-0 draw for Milan following their draw in the Europa League group stage match against AEK Athens on Thursday. And it is now 4 consecutive games in the Serie A where AC Milan are unable to pick up the 3 points, and question marks are once again all over the team's performance as well as our coach Montella. Prior to this game, of course, the board made clear to Montella that if he doesn't pick up 6 points in the next games, of course against Genoa today and Chievo during the midweek fixture next week, there will be a high chance that Montella will depart the Milan bench. Well, it appears to be that that is not yet the case, as it's just been confirmed by Sky in the last few minutes that Montella might actually still be given another chance, and this will probably be based on the results of next week. Once again, against Chievo during the week, and then Juventus on the weekend. I think Montella has been really unable to pick up the results recently, and this upcoming week will be once again very, very tough for him. It might be the last week we see him on the bench, as personally I don't see Milan picking up a result against Juventus next weekend, and the match against Chievo, away to Chievo actually, might prove to be a difficult fixture as well for the Rossoneri. But that is all in the future. Let's speak about the present and what happened today. Of course, another disappointing result. Like I said, we didn't get the 3 points, and many people might see this match as one that's, the glass is half full, half empty, given the fact that we played with 10 men for the majority of the game and we were still capable of not conceding a goal and walking out of this game without a loss. But I see it otherwise. I see it as another game that's been thrown out of the window, another game which we should have won. Like I said prior to the game, even before Athens, the game against Athens and the game against Genoa and the next game against Chievo, these were all must-wins, and so far we got 2 very boring 0-0 draws, and that for me is not enough. That to me, standing in 11th place, I believe, in the standings for the Serie A as we speak, is completely unacceptable for a team that has spent so much money on the players. And I could keep repeating the story over and over again over the course of the matches. It is what it is, guys. We are not good enough at the moment. The results are not coming in. We are not winning games. We didn't win a match in the last 4 in the Serie A, and there's many concerns with the team. There's nothing to hide from this team anymore. I think all the league, the entire league knows exactly the situation that we're in, and everyone will be trying to take advantage of this for the next games, at least. So let's get into this game. Let's speak about individual performances, and of course the major talking point for today's match is definitely Bonucci's sending off. Now, initially, on the free kick that Milan had, I didn't see the foul. I didn't see, all I saw was both Bonucci and the Genoa player both go down. The Genoa player holding his face. Later I saw that there was blood coming out, I believe from his eye or something, or just above it. And definitely it wasn't a pretty sight to see. But I wasn't really aware of what happened during that incident until I saw the replay. And once I saw the replay and I saw Bonucci's elbow really going out of its way, and in my opinion, he could have easily controlled that. It looked pretty intentional to me. It's not something that, you're just shoving. I think there was definitely an intent to elbow the player in the face. And that's exactly what Bonucci did. There's just no excuse whatsoever for that. And with the VAR system that was introduced this season, and by the way, is not only used for offside calls or goal line technology, whatever you want to call it, it's also used for these incidents that might not appear to be quite visible to the ref. And I think the referee as well was not quite aware of what happened there initially. And then once he consulted the VAR technology, he saw that there was very bad foul there from Bonucci. And I think, the sending off is completely inevitable for Bonucci. I think it was the correct decision. I'm not going to be biased and say, the referee could have let that slip, could have seen it from another perspective. Yes, the Genoa player had his arm on Bonucci, but to me, that's something that you see all the time in calcio, and what Bonucci did is unexplainable, really. And better yet, to come from your captain, to see that from your captain, is just embarrassing. It's embarrassing as well because besides his performance, not only today, but for the majority of the season so far, it hasn't been good for Milan. He hasn't been doing anything. I've been repeating it game after game. And to have that sign, that episode happen from your captain is even worse. And it's not a picture that Milan should be looking at all. It's not something that Milan should be getting used to. And unfortunately, so far, we have seen only that from Bonucci. Now, the major question also at the moment is how long will he be suspended for? Because reports are suggesting that it might not only be one match, it might be even more than that. And what that means is that he will also be missing the game against Juventus next weekend if that's the case. That could be problematic. It could not be problematic. We're going to have to wait and see. But I think Milan coped quite well against Genoa after his sending off. Of course, Milan converted to the back four where Romagnoli was introduced, and he came on in place of Çalhanoğlu. I think Romagnoli played a good game in that back four, and I think he needs to play in that back four to have a bit more of security in his game and also feel better with the rest of the team. I think a back three for Romagnoli is a bit premature at the moment for him. Of course, he's still young, still picking up experience, so I think he definitely has more confidence in the back four. But getting back to that Bonucci episode, guys, really to me, and I said it last game, this player is just unrecognizable at the moment. I don't know what's going through his mind. Don't know when it's going to change. I don't know when it's going to fix. But at the moment, Bonucci, to me, is not the captain I would want. He doesn't give me the image of Milan's captain at the moment. I can name a few other players that I think work harder and deserve it more than Bonucci. I understand it could have been one of those clauses once you sign these top players, in quotations, that you might, want to encourage the player to move to Milan, after that move from Juventus. The Milan board could have easily said, listen, Bonucci, we're going to give you the captain armband, you're going to be captain with us, and that, can motivate him to join. But, in this day and age, money speaks a lot, but to me, it's more on the player's performance and the leadership that you bring to the team. More importantly, that should be the ultimate decider, in my opinion, when choosing a captain. And today, I'm not saying he had the best of games, but another player that I could easily name and has more leadership skills in this team is Giacomo Bonaventura. And, we're going to have to wait and see what happens, but I'm still very, very disappointed with Bonucci and how he has been starting this season. He needs to do better, and so far, it's been really a subpar season for him, and I'm being generous here. I'm being very generous, but it's been really insufficient from him so far. Now, I want to speak a bit about the rest of the players, of course. I already spoke about Romagnoli coming in after that sending off from Bonucci. But I also want to speak about the rest of the defense and the rest of the team. I was really impressed with Zapata today. I think he did quite a good job. It's not something that you hear often from me when speaking about Zapata there. But, when players do play to their standards, and when they do play well, I do mention it, and I'm not always against the players. When they do perform, I'm the first to say that they performed well, and I think Zapata today did exactly that. He had a good performance, looked quite comfortable in the back, and also was very happy on how he recuperated on that breakaway from Lapadula actually in the second half. Quite happy with how he dealt with that situation. Also, Rodriguez, I think, did quite well. He had a decent performance, in my opinion. Nothing to really complain about. Maybe going forward, his crosses could be a bit better and be a bit less predictable. Making maybe changing things around and not only doing those crosses where he's just static and there's going to be a ball sent in. That's very easy for the defense to deal with. Maybe make some sort of run and alternate between a cross coming from the wing, moving a bit inside. Rodriguez needs to be a bit less predictable, in my opinion. Also, let's speak about the midfield, because once again I think Borini had a very good performance. In the midfield, Borini, at the beginning of the season, not many people were expecting him to perform this way, and not many people were, expecting him to even be a starter in this team. Of course, with the formation that Milan was originally planning to go with, and also with a 3-5-2 before Conte got injured, Borini was a name that not many people were expecting to see much of. But things have changed. Borini has proven himself. He's one of the hardest workers on this team, giving in his full 100% every game, in my opinion. Always working very hard. And yes, maybe he's not the most technically gifted player, but the way that he works for the team, it's not something that you see from every player, in my opinion. So I'm very, very happy to see what Borini is doing so far. Very hard-working player, and hopefully with more playing time, he could even have better performances in the future. Kessie today, I think that with Bia, these were two players that did not have the best performances against Inter, but they both had a better performance today. Kessie, I think that his physical ability was shown today. Sometimes a bit selfish, sometimes he made the wrong decisions, but I could say that about every player on this team. But definitely some positive signs coming in from Frank Kessie today, and hopefully he continues down this road. Bia looked a bit tired, especially in the second half, and that could be also due to Milan playing in 10 men. At times I see him very sluggish, walking around, not always very upbeat, but I think his distribution was better today from what we saw in recent games, and hopefully once again he improves down that road and continues down that road as well. Jack Bonaventura today, once again, one of the most electric players, in my opinion, alongside Suso. Always trying to do a lot for the team. Yes, at times he holds the ball a bit too much. That's not something that we haven't seen from Bonaventura in a long time. But I think Bonaventura is once again one of the main reference points of this team. He continues to really be one of those little sparks that Milan has in their performances. Like I said, alongside Suso, these are the two players that really try always to give a spark to Milan, and I think without them, this team would have been absolutely rubbish. And I know right now we are not to speak very well of the team. We cannot speak very well, but I believe even without these two players, the team would have been worse, even worse than what it is right now. And Suso, really, up front, he's one of the only players, if not the only players, that always tries to create something, always has ideas on top of his head. Genius type of player. He's always the one moving things around. And today, even though he did not score or provide any assists, you could easily tell if you watch the game that he was the only one really creating anything. And the same thing cannot be said for Kalinic. I think he had one of his worst performances so far at Milan. Wasn't able to control anything. Wasn't able to really be an option for Suso or any of the other midfielders to actually, get the ball, control it, and try to score goals. He had a very good occasion near in the second half where Suso sent him a beauty of a delivery, but he was unable to control it, and really it was an upsetting performance for Kalinic, and I think that was pretty clear once he stepped off the pitch and the fans were whistling him down. So that's pretty much it in terms of the player performances. I think I spoke about everyone. Donnarumma, he didn't really have to make many saves. He made a great one at the end of the first half. But besides that, he really wasn't tested as much. Positive sign for him, I guess, definitely some signs of encouragement for Donnarumma after conceding many goals during the course of this start of the season. It's 2 games in a row now that he has kept a clean sheet, but at the same time, we haven't scored in the past 2 games. So once again, half glass full, half and glass half empty for Donnarumma and the rest of the Rossoneri. The result itself, I said it before, I'm going to say it again, not good enough. Not the result we would have wanted today, and I think it's a quite disappointing result given the fact of how much money we spent. And this might have been a result where, in the previous seasons could have been even acceptable. Genoa has always been a tough nut to crack. It's always been a very tough team to beat, whether playing them at the San Siro or at the Marassi. It's always one of those teams that, is definitely very tough to beat. But this is the type of result I could have accepted in the past few years, given the players that we had. But now, with all the money that we spent, these results are unacceptable, and I cannot say that I'm pleased with a 0-0 tie against Genoa. Given the circumstances, yes, we had 1 man less, but I think we actually played better than them, even with 1 man less, and we had more occasions than them. So there was no reason why we shouldn't be able to win, even with 1 man less on the pitch. But player performances, like I said before, were not all the best. Yes, they have improved a bit, but they have to do more if they need to get the 3 points against any team in the Serie A. I did want to speak a bit about Montella. I said it at the beginning of the show that, it seems that the board is once again backing him up. I don't know how longer Montella can last, to be honest with you. Next week is going to be very critical, in my opinion. I'm not expecting Milan, at least the way that they're playing now, to get a result against Juventus, especially away from home, playing at the Juventus Stadium. It's a very, very tough task to ask, and I don't think, personally, that we are capable of getting the result, even though, every game speaks for itself. Episodes change games every 2 seconds, so anything can happen. But next week, it's definitely a very big, decisive week for Montella. Even if we're not capable of getting a win against Chievo, I don't think Milan will fire him after Chievo, given the fact that, the Juventus match is just days after. And I don't think it's really wise to bring in a new coach right after Chievo and, bringing in this coach right before the Juventus game. I think Montella is going to be given this last lifeline, in my opinion, next week. Depending on how he fares in those 2 games, things might change. And, these are going to be the last 2 games of the month before November. So Milan might want to, start afresh in the month of November with a new coach. Or they might not be wanting to do that. So I think we'll have to see how the week plans out, the next week plans out. And after that, we'll see where Milan and the board stand with Montella's decision. But enough talking from me, guys. I want to know your thoughts on the whole situation. What did you think about the match? What did you think about Bonucci's sending off? And also, what do you think about Montella? I know a lot of you guys show a lot of comments, a lot of opinions in the chat, in the discussion. Do you think Montella deserves another chance this upcoming week, or do you think he should have been fired right after this game? Let me know as well. Let's see what you guys have to say then. John Romano says, Gio, my brother and father always crack on about Bonaventura, how he is so bad because every time he gets the ball, he dribbles and loses it. In my opinion, he is good. What are your thoughts on him? With no disrespect to your brother and father there, but I think Bonaventura, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be even half the team that we are today, and that is already a big big statement in my opinion. Bonaventura always, I think, tries his best, and today we also saw it in a very difficult time, trying to give the urgency to the fans, trying to pump them up, trying to give some motivation to them to help the team, try something and actually motivate them to do well today. Bonaventura is one of those players that personally I would start every game if I had the chance on this Milan team. Yes, like I said, at times he loses the ball, but it's like every other player on this team. I could say the same thing about them. Bonaventura is probably one of the least players that loses the balls, and if not for his genius ideas, like I said, many of the attacks we wouldn't even create. And this goes the same thing with Suso. In my opinion, these are two guys that, yes, they might deserve some criticism, but it's not fair to say that, they are bad players for this team. I think they are actually the most vibrant and most exciting players, for my opinion, for this team. Jamie Muscat says, in my opinion, anything but 6 points in the next 2 games will get Montella out. X Lee says, Gio, thoughts on the formation lineup, what would you change? I think, first of all, there's way too many changes in this formation and lineup. We are unable to keep a consistent lineup, a consistent formation. We are always changing every game. I think today we saw a 3-4-1-2 at one point. We saw the 3-5-2 on previous occasions, a 4-3-3. This, that. Too many formation changes, too many players playing at times out of position, way too many players trying to adapt to different styles. Montella needs to stick to one formation at the moment and, hopefully transition these players into changing formations within games. But at the moment, I don't think this team is ready to adapt to different styles, to different formations, to different positions between themselves during games. I think this team is still in a very learning phase. So I think it's too many changes, in my opinion, from Montella, and that could also play a part in the player's psychology and the player's mind, trying to adapt to different roles, different positions all the time. It's not something that's very easily adaptable for these players. Anibal Barca says, maybe Montella hasn't been sacked because they haven't found a new good coach. I don't think it's exactly that. I mean, even if they do fire him, like I said, next week, I don't think Milan will definitely hire a coach that could potentially be at the club for a very long time. Reason I say this is because I think Milan, and I mentioned it last week, if they had to get a coach that was gonna, lead them to glory or lead them to, I don't know, just be their coach for a very long time and actually trying to build something under him, they should have done this past summer before the season started and while the players were still adapting to each other. I'm not saying they're not adapting to each other now, but maybe it was something that they could have and should have done back in the summer while they were still during the training camp. It's very difficult to bring in a coach while the season is running and try to change things. I've said this many times. Just because a new coach will come in and replace Montella during the season does not guarantee results. Players need to adapt to the coach, to his playing style. Yes, he could be more of a motivator maybe, and I've read reports and heard things that Milan was actually considering bringing Gattuso from the Primavera to the main team to coach. As a motivator, I think that's very good, a very good boost. But at the same time, I will not want the same thing that happened to previous players such as Inzaghi, Seedorf, and Co., to happen to Gattuso. I think Gattuso needs to remain in the Primavera. He needs to stay there, needs to build his path, needs to build his career, and when the time is right to make the shift, then he should make the shift. I don't like these premature moves. We saw it in the past with those players that I mentioned, and they backfired on Milan several times. So I will not like to see that again. We just got a contribution here from John Robiotto. Thank you so much, man, for always supporting the channel with your contributions. John really helps us a lot. He says, in Bonucci's case, both players through elbows is connected. Unlucky. Borini is my player of the match, and I hate myself for saying that. I think Kessie needs to be benched and bring in Loca. Love you, Gio. Thank you, John, for that comment. I have to agree. You know, like I said before, I spoke about Bonucci. Both players had their arms, tangling there, connecting with each other. But I think Bonucci's intention of throwing in that elbow was so evident. Initially, I did not see it, like I said, and so same thing for the ref. But looking at that replay, you cannot go in with that elbow in the player's face like that. Borini, one of the hardest workers, I said it before. To my surprise, he's actually been one of the better players in Milan so far, and that is actually quite astonishing because I would have never expected such a thing, and I wasn't even expecting him to get much playing time this season, to be honest. Of course, Conte's injury plays a big role there for him playing, but at the same time, Borini, I think, in my opinion, he's earned himself a spot on the team, on the starting 11. Kessie as well, sometimes he seems lazy. His physical playing definitely gives him a boost to his performances, but he's still not at that optimal performance that many of us were hoping for before the season started. So thank you again for that. John, Milan fan, says Gattuso is not the solution. Ancelotti is the best option. Like I said, Gattuso, maybe he might be an option, a good option for the future, but not right now. I would not want to throw him in prematurely into the first team. As for Ancelotti, we already spoke about this. Ancelotti decided that he will not be coaching this season any team, and that he will want to take a break from coaching. Yes, I wanted to speak about that. MacArthur, he says Bonaventura has a muscular injury. We saw him coming off in that second half for Calabria, and it didn't really seem like a very nice sight for Bonaventura. I hope it's nothing serious. I think within the next days we should be able to actually understand the extent of that injury. Hopefully it's nothing serious. But I will also like to speak about Montela's latest comments I'm just reading right now. He's saying that he's playing his career. He's pretty much battling for his career, and it's definitely a very tough task. Just one last comment, one last opinion on Montella before I sign off. Coaching Milan is never an easy task. There's a lot of pressure that comes with it, and that, people have to understand. But at the same time, the staff, the board, if they're backing you up, it's for a reason. And they probably believe in Montella, but once the results don't come in, and once, you spend that amount of money and you don't see anything coming out of it, I understand that it's early in the season, but let's not forget, guys, almost a quarter of the season has gone by. A quarter of the season has gone by, and we're standing in 11th place when our ambition, our goal, is to end in the top 4. Clearly speaking, guys, I know it's early. I know it's still very early, but you cannot really be positive. You cannot be optimistic about where Milan could end up this season. It's something that, it's very frightening, not only due to all that amount that we spent, but also because Milan will, like mentioned by Fasone and Mirabelli, will probably have to give away one or two of those signings that they made this season, top signings in quotations, that they made this season in order to, if they don't qualify for the Champions League. And that to me is a very big disappointment. A very big, something that you shouldn't be doing once spending all that money. You're trying to bring in these players to hopefully build a dynasty with them, to hopefully, have them for a long run and be part of your project that you've been thinking of for this past summer. And then having to give them up just because the results don't come in. It's not a very pretty sight, let me tell you that. So, at the moment, there are a lot of problems. I don't have to tell you guys this. You guys know this by yourselves. But these are things that have not yet changed. And unfortunately for me, and for you guys, we might have to be witnesses of these performances for still some time. And it's tough to understand. It's tough to actually agree on this, given the fact that all these years, we have just been victims of poor results week in and week out. Every season being so disappointing. And there was so much optimism in our minds this past summer once these signings were made one after the other. Finally, Milan is making these signings again. We're going to climb back to the top. I was never one that, said this is a Scudetto winning season, because I didn't believe in that. But I know a lot of you guys were actually saying that. And my goal from the beginning of the season was to reach the top four, to make it back to the Champions League. And I think that's a realistic goal, or at least was a realistic goal. But with these results coming in, it's very, very tough to be optimistic. And I think it's still early, but one of the only routes, in my opinion, that Milan should definitely focus on and not throw under a bus is the Europa League route. As we all know, the winner of the Europa League will qualify to the Champions League for next season. And right now, I'm not saying that we are anywhere near to be that team that will win the Europa League. But what I'm trying to say is that this is another lifeline that we should not take for granted. We should definitely play our best options and fight for it, because at the end of the day, this could be our salvation. So we'll see what happens, but like I said, we're having problems there too. We almost drew against Rijeka a few weeks back. Last game against Athens was not a positive game. But all I'm saying is that this route should also be considered and not be taken for granted, because at the end of the day, you have another possibility to qualify, and why not take it? So we'll see exactly what happens with that. But that is it for me, guys. Thank you all for joining me on this match review. Once again, the final score, AC Milan 0, Genoa 0. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do so to stay up to date with everything going on at the club. A friendly reminder that there's 2 fixtures coming up next week against Chievo on Wednesday, away to them. And then, of course, next weekend, the big one against Juventus. So make sure you stay updated to Rossoneri TV. Make sure you subscribe to not miss any of the videos. And if you haven't yet, please leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. That is all for me. Thank you for watching yet again. This has been Gio signing off from Rossoneri TV. And as always, Forza Milan.